Hey, welcome back to the Confidad podcast. Dan Tinquist here, your host. So glad you chose to tune in today. We'll begin with our fatherhood mindset out loud. Say it with me. I'm the only one who can fulfill the father role I have, so I choose to do it well. I get to show up well for my kids. Imperfection is reality. Ownership is a choice. Today is brand new. So is tomorrow. I am wholly loved, so I will love wholly. In today's equipping section, I want to talk to you about the concept of adventure. I actually use adventure and risk rather interchangeably within my content, within my course, because I think the concept resonates depending on who's hearing it differently, right? Some people might hear adventure and get all excited, and then they hear risk and they're like, yikes. Some people might hear risk and get excited, and adventure sounds boring. So here we go. Last summer, our kids went to a local pool, and they have one of those like bonsai slides, I call them, where you just kind of you start at the top, it's really, really slow, and then all of a sudden it just goes vertical and you drop down. And when we got done, and I was asking my son about his time on the bonsai slide, because he had spent all the last summer not doing it and getting a little bit teased from his big brother and his cousins who did it, and he didn't. And so when I asked him about it, he quoted Kobe Cotton from Dude Perfect and said, "You know, Dad, I was sitting there on the top of that slide and I thought, 5 seconds of fear or a whole summer of regret." And I think about that as a really powerful mindset tool for us to give to our kids. You see, I didn't even give that to him. He was watching Dude Perfect, saw Kobe Cotton in South Africa talking about whether he was going to bungee jump or not. And he chose to do the bungee jumping. He chose the fear. Do we choose the fear? Are we choosing the fear when we are talking about scheduling? When we're talking about finding things to do with our family? Are we playing it safe all the time, or are we taking risks as a family to build memory? In our culture that is all about safety and all about comfort and convenience, it is becoming increasingly difficult to choose fear. Like if you look at a playground today compared to 50 years ago, why are they so safe? Fear of litigation. We don't want our kids to fall and get hurt and then sue and then whatever. Whoever's liable doesn't want that. So they're going to make the playground equipment much safer. You know what has happened to kids because playground equipment has gotten safer? They've gotten less resilient. They've gotten more fearful because they aren't able to take the risks that they usually did before. Now, don't get all over me about like, well, kids shouldn't be breaking arms or whatever. Like, okay, wherever we sit on that, it doesn't matter. The reality is that if the world around us does not push us into fear, we have to manufacture it ourselves if we want to see real growth in our kids. We have to be able to allow them to do some things that scare the heck out of us in order for them to grow, build resilience, and become confident, independent, healthy adults. Jonathan Haidt, in his book, The Anxious Generation, talks about this whole playground issue, about how they've become so safe that kids are not as strong as they used to be, physically strong even, mentally strong too. And I don't want that for my kids, right? I've spent a few different times out in the neighborhood or at the parks allowing my kids to do things at younger ages, and I kind of watch the other parents to see and gauge where they're at. If I see a parent kind of getting anxious and wanting to jump in, then I know I'm probably right on the precipice of where I should be allowing my kid to take risks, right? You fast forward in any of those situations, worst case scenario is a broken arm, which they can heal from, a busted up lip or a broken nose or a bloodied up something, right? The crazy thing about our bodies is when we have a broken bone or when we have a cut or something, a minor injury, this is a thing that I've taught my kids just by default. I said, isn't it cool that God made our bodies to heal as soon as they've been injured? Now, obviously, there's illnesses and other things I'm not talking about, but to help calm their anxiety, when they get a cut, when they get a bloody nose, when they hurt their leg or do something because they're playing and active and taking risks, I remind them, guess what? It hurts right now, but your body has already started to heal itself. And I think if we're able to push ourselves past the unknown, past the what if this bad thing happens, and understand that on the other side of the what if the risk isn't really, really, really high, it's okay. Like, it's good to build resilience, to build courage, to help our kids take steps forward, even though they're fearful. Do you go forward even in fear? How are you teaching your kids to move forward despite the fear? And if we're not, we're doing them a disservice. Okay, so each kid is going to have a different level or maybe threshold of fear, right? Where they're able to move through. But as your kids grow and as they get older, how are you helping them move through the fear and push into growth? This is something I see a lot of adults working through. Imagine you launching from your home and feeling that you understand yourself well enough to say, I might be scared, but I'm going to do it anyway. Because when I was a kid, my dad brought me through all of these different experiences where I was scared out of my mind, but he was by my side and he said, don't worry, everything's going to work out and you're going to grow from this, right? If they're able to practice that at home and realize that, like, fear and failure is a part of life, but moving through it is how we grow, how unstoppable will our kids be when they get into adulthood and they said, yeah, I'm scared out of my mind, but guess what? I'm not going to play it safe. I'm going to do it anyway. Right? Now, don't hear me advocating for like willy-nilly, unreasonable risk. Okay. Like, there are people who take their kids, rock climbing or kayaking or, whitewater rafting, whatever, without the proper training, equipment, things like that. That's not what I'm advocating for, but I am advocating for understanding where the threshold is for each of your kids and your family, and then pushing right up to that threshold, right up to the spot where you think, man, are we going to make it through this? I gave an example about our 6-year-old biking 19 miles in Utah a couple of years ago. We didn't know if we were going to make it, but guess what? We did it. It built awesome bonds in our family and memories. And then also, that kid who's now 8 is able to look back on that and say, I'm able to do hard things because I did that hard thing. And we continue to challenge, we continue to grow, we continue to give opportunities for our kids to say, do hard things even when I'm scared. This is what I mean when I talk about being an intentional father. If we don't move and have some sort of vision, some sort of metrics, some sort of framework, we will just parent by default. We will just go the way that the world goes. And as intentional fathers, we ought not do that. We ought know our kids well enough to figure out what risks are they going to be willing to take, and will they step up to the plate for to realize growth. Right now, peel back the layers a little bit, our youngest is 6, and I'm wondering, maybe this is the summer that we go up to the Boundary Waters, which is in northern Minnesota, and there's no like electricity, running water, none of that. And you have to portage your canoe across land and then paddle for miles and then portage again and paddle for miles. Is there a Boundary Waters trip in this summer's future? Is my 6-year-old ready for that? Is that something we can do as a family that we're like, well, I don't know if we're going to make it, but I think we will, because there's all kinds of unknowns. There's animals like timber wolves and bears. There are weather patterns that come up there's no cell signal. You can't get a lick of cell service up there. So are we prepared to do that? Stay tuned. We'll let you know if that ends up happening this summer, but that is a question I'm asking. What is the threshold of each of my kids for something like that? And then for our family together, is that something we'd be well equipped and able to be trained in and able to do it? Now, I've been there a couple of times. Our oldest was there and my wife and I've been there. And so we kind of know the lay of the land and a little bit of what goes into it. But as we process this and as we look to decide, the question is, are we even having the conversation? Or are we just kind of living willy-nilly? Are we living life, or is life living us? So as you look to this summer and you're planning adventure and risk in your family, find ways for your kids to have to ask this question to themselves. 5 seconds of fear or a whole summer of regret? And may you be empowered today to start having the conversation or continue having the conversation of what are the risks we're taking together as a family to build bonds together and to continue to grow an intentional culture in your family of dreaming, failure, learning, and growing. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you in the next episode.